All right, a very, very good morning, ladies and gentlemen. How are you all doing? Karibuni sana. Good to see you all here. Welcome to another episode of the Afriforex Daily Analysis. On this beautiful 29th day of October 2024, hope you're well. Good to see lots of people here. Names we always see here each and every morning. Hope you're well from wherever it is that you're joining us from. And of course, also to the guys who are joining us on YouTube, Karibuni sana. Also remember to like and subscribe when you're there as well. So John is my name. I'm a trader with Afriforex. Afriforex is a trading unit, so it's not a one-man show. So we do have Mitch here. He is working in the back office. So in case you do have any questions, as always, feel free to ask them both on the Q&A section and also on the chat box. Mitch will definitely be getting back to you. But I will also be looking at the questions more specifically in the Q&A section towards the very tail end of this session. So we're going to jump straight into it. So we'll start off as always looking at our watch list. And you can see right there, Tuesday the 29th, what our watch list is going to be looking like. So it's more or less copy-paste from what we had yesterday. There were not that many fundamentals. Remember, I pointed that out yesterday. Just some USD news events that did come out showing strength. There was definitely some strength that did come in on the USDs. But that was pretty much it. But today, there will definitely be a lot of news events that will be coming out. So there's this one that's going to be coming out at around 10 or thereabout during the Frankfurt market open. Remember, the times have shifted this week. So, you know, had they not, then this news event would have come out right now. But since the times have shifted for the London session, so right now this news event is going to be coming out at around 10. So in case there's any change, make sure that you do join the Telegram channel. We'll definitely let you know. But it's going to be a pretty packed day. In fact, you can start off by looking at the economic calendar. What's going to be happening, because this week is going to be quite interesting. You can see quite a number of news events that are going to be happening today. Definitely will be a lot of movement today, especially during the US session. You can see some 3 stars there during the US session. Tomorrow, we will be having some CPIs, you know, for the Australian dollar, some GDP news events for the euro as well. And you can see also for the German news events right there, also some GDPs that are going to be coming out, CPIs for euro as well. And of course, moving forward, you can see that there will be some CPIs for the euro on Thursday. But most importantly, definitely, there will be the non-farm payroll on Friday. So you can see quite a lot of news events this week. So I think for the next 4 days, it's going to be pretty interesting, you know, on the charts. So this is more or less the watch list. So since everything is more or less the same as what we did end up having yesterday, we'll start off by looking at the screenshots that we did end up getting. So we'll start off with this one. This one is from Caroline Kisini. Shout out to you. So this is on the Great British Pound against the US dollar. So I can see you got a really good buy down within this region right here. The market went up. I think this was early morning, even just looking at the times. And I can see that your stop loss already above your point of entry. Hopefully you are targeting somewhere high up within that region there. But that was a really, really good buy to start off the week yesterday. So shout out to you for that, Caroline, and keep up the good work. So you also did get the New Zealand dollar against the US dollar. So this one was also another buy. It seems like a replica of the Great British Pound against the US dollar. So I can see that you got a buy on this one as well, especially if you got it on the pullback somewhere within this region. And this was really good. So I can see that the market went up. Stop loss already above your point of entry, which is really good. So shout out to you for that and keep up the good work. So we also did get a handful of trades from Dan Bickett. So if you're here, shout out to you as well. So this is on the DAX 40. So I can see you got a selling opportunity on this one. Stop loss below your point of entry, which is good. Take profit down within this area here. In terms of where you got the sell, this is really good. Definitely a bunch of sellers there. They did end up doing justice, you know, in terms of pushing the market to the downside. So shout out to you for that. That was really good. The NAS 100. Perhaps you got a selling opportunity on this one, somewhere within this area here. Although it seems like there was some sort of a mess that was going on within that region there, but you did manage to get a sell. Stop loss already below your point of entry, and I can't see the levels that you've set out within these regions here. So guess levels that you're watching out to manage and possibly also look for other entries. So shout out to you for that. So you also did get the Australian dollar against the US dollar. Somewhere within this region here, kind of a similar trade to what I got, which we'll be looking at in a bit. But I can't see that you got the sell somewhere within there, and I can't see that you managed your trade somewhere within this region and closed the trade down within this area right here, which is okay. Definitely a region where we do have buyers, although we do know that that currency pair has continued to move down much lower, but at least you did get what you wanted to get out of it. So shout out to you for that, Dan Bickett. And we also did end up getting, last but not least, a screenshot from George Chege. George, if you're here, shout out to you as well. So this is on gold. So I can see you got a really good buying opportunity on this one. Somewhere within this SNR, market went up, came down, tested this region, and still continued to push to the upside. I can see you managed your trade somewhere within this area here. And as the market was moving up closer to your take profit, I can see that your stop loss was also just behind these buyers who are pushing the market to the upside. So this is some really good trading. So shout out to you for that, George. Again, keep up the good work. So shout out to George, Dan Bickett, Caroline, for sending in those screenshots. Remember, guys, if you do want to send in your screenshots, feel free to send them in to us. Our contact details should be there on the chat box. And remember, it's not a matter of looking for the best trades. I mean, even if they're bad, that's the reason why we're here. We don't banish anyone. We're just here to support. If we do see something that we can point out in terms of what you can end up changing, then we'll definitely give you that recommendation. But also to celebrate your wins, just to see that at least you guys are doing well on the chat. So feel free to send in your screenshots to us. Our contact details should be there on the chat box. So we're going to jump straight into matters today. So since everything is the same, we're going to be doing the reviews as we move along. So we'll start off with the CHF pairs, mix and match them up with everything on the sell side, the GBP pairs, the Euro pairs, then finish off with the USD pairs. Then, of course, wrap things up with the indices and the commodities. So the first one, the Australian dollar against the Swiss franc. For this one yesterday, we're trying to see whether we could have gotten some sells, and you can't see the three regions right there that I had pointed out. So in the morning, when we're looking at the charts, price was somewhere here. So wanted to see whether we could have gotten price coming back in somewhere as close as possible within here. Unfortunately, I guess there was some sort of an SNR within this region here, which was good enough for the sellers. And you can't see that they pushed the market to the downside, came in. There was an attempt of the buyers to push the market to the upside, which was unsuccessful. And you can't see that the market did hold, although this did need to be read on a smaller time frame. And you can't see that the sellers did actually end up pushing the market to the downside. This was during the US session. So you can see that the market went up, came down, held within here. If you look at the times, that's at exactly 4:30 or thereabout. That's when the market was there. You can't see that the market started its journey, to come to the downside. So for this one, for today, these are the three areas that we will be watching out for. Don't chase the sells. I know there are hundreds of millions of traders across the globe, who are possibly looking to see whether they can get selling opportunities on this one. Definitely, because, it's quite obvious, that the market has come to the downside. Definitely 95 are chasing the sells down within here. We do need to see some sort of a pullback. So let's see if we can get the market coming back in somewhere as close as possible within here. There's also some sort of an SNR here. You can see that the market had bounced off from, came down, reached to the downside, came back in. And the sellers who are actually pushing the market to the downside could be sitting somewhere within here. So let's wait and see if we can at least get some sort of a pullback coming in. Remember that patience is key. When it comes to trading, you could find that during the London session, the market could be on the pullback phase. Then during the US session, maybe you could find the market somewhere within here to possibly give you some good selling opportunities. So you could wait for that. Alternatively, in case the market breaks this region to the downside on the pullback, then you could ideally try and see whether you could get maybe some selling opportunity within this region here. So watch out for that, and also watch out for the region at the top. It's a bit of a long shot, maybe a slim chance the market might get there. But I guess if it does, then at least you should be ready for that. So the next one, this is the New Zealand dollar against the Swiss franc. So for this one yesterday, our bias was to try and see whether we could get sells. You can see the three regions right there that I had pointed out, also an illustration of what to expect. So the price was pulling around within this area, and I had pointed out, don't really look for the sells when the market was holding within or just above this area, because you wouldn't really have known, what type of reaction you'd have gotten off the buyers within this area. You can see that they really held the sellers hostage within this area. Unfortunately, they couldn't get the price coming back in all the way to within there. Seems like there was an SNR somewhere within this area that was good enough. And you can't see that the market came up, attempted to move to the upside, couldn't, broke to the downside, but consider the pullback came back in within this region much later on. Maybe had it come in yesterday within the times, could have been possible to get that sell to come down. But there is no need to panic, no need to worry. Remember, there'll always be opportunities on the charts. We just need to be patient. So similar situation, just like we've seen on the Australian dollar against the Swiss franc. We just need to see that pullback coming in. Hopefully, we can get the market or price coming in somewhere as close as possible within this area. If we do, then at least we could try and see whether we could time some selling opportunities off that area to come down. So you could watch out for that. Alternatively, also remember there's that region at the top, a bit of a long shot, just like we've seen on the Australian dollar against the Swiss franc. But in case the market finds its way somewhere there, then you could also time some sells. But also the other option, the conservative option, maybe the market might even just tap in within this area here, because you can't see that there's some sort of an SNR. In case we do end up getting the market coming to the downside, then the pullback happens and the market pulls back in within there, then you could possibly end up getting some sells somewhere within this region here. So you could watch out for that. There could be some mini sells happening off here. The only problem with that is that the risk to reward might be too small. If you stand to gain 7 pips, then to get a proper risk to reward, you will possibly need a stop loss of maybe 2-3 pips, which I do not really think the broker is actually going to let you do. So you're better off either waiting for the market to break to the downside and you get the sell here, right? So that's one option. The other option is, at least if we get the market coming back in within here, then at least this selling opportunity will definitely be worth it. And you could try and see how much more further you could go with that one. So watch out for that. Remember to watch out for the times. So the London market open at 11 and the US sessions 3 and of course 4:30. You could also find some movement at that time. So the next one, this is the Swiss franc against the Japanese yen. So for this one yesterday, the bus was to try and see whether we could have gotten some buying opportunities. You can see the 3 regions right there that I had pointed out, and also an illustration of what to expect. So I was thinking maybe price was going to spike to the downside within here, come back in and hold and look for the buy. But you can see that it first went up, sellers reacted somewhere within there. They came down quite aggressively. But the buyers within here, at least they were able to contain, the sellers who had come in. And you can see that the market technically probed within this region, came in, attempted to come down again, couldn't, broke to the upside somehow, some sort of a hold within here. And you can't see the time. That's exactly 4:30. And that's exactly what we keep on talking about. I know we sound like a broken record, repeating the times, but it is what it is, so you just need to make sure that you really watch out for that, especially because based on experience and what we've seen is that the markets normally take some time to form or to set themselves up. So you can see like the whole of the London session for this one, the market was setting itself up. The sellers were fighting, the probe happened. By the time 4:30 came in, all this had already happened. The whole story had already formed. And you can see that off this region right here, the buyers got ready to actually push the market to the upside. And you can see how fast that buy actually moved to the upside from within here to somewhere within this region and beyond within no time. So just make sure that you really watch out for the times, especially even if your timing is not really that great. But at least if you watch out for where is the market within the stipulated times, most probably, and it's a game of probability. If the market is within a region of resistance during the market open times, there's a high probability the market will push itself off that region. If it's within a buyer's region, the same applies. So you see, like right now, if the market is going to be hanging around somewhere within this area, and let's say the London market does actually open, there's a high probability this region could possibly end up reacting. And what you could possibly find is that the market will possibly end up coming down, back within this region. Then maybe the US session will possibly find the market back within this region here. And you could find that that's when the buy actually works. So the London market open price could be there. And the US session price could be down within here. So you just need to be careful with that. So even if your timing is not that great, just make sure that you really try and factor that in and try to see how it works. So for this one, for today, we're still going to be watching out for buys. So let's see if we get the pullback coming in. If we do, we could try and see whether we could get buys there. If not, and the market breaks to the upside, then we'll just have to wait for the pullback, back within this region here, and we could try and see whether we could get the conservative buys. But there's a high probability price might just be coming back in within this region. If it does, then just make sure that you're ready for that. And of course, also remember the other region that's lower than that, which is going to be the last area. So last but not least, for the CHF pairs, we do have the Canadian dollar against the Swiss franc. So for this one, yesterday, we're trying to see whether we could have gotten some sells. And you can see the three areas right there that I had pointed out. So during the Asian session, the market had come up, somehow slowed down within this region. I was expecting maybe to get some sort of a last spike, just to incite those last buyers to come in before we started our journey to come to the downside. But unfortunately, you can see that the market just started to calm down and continue to calm down lower and lower. There was no response of the buyers, anywhere within here to get maybe some sort of a pullback, even just coming back in. Within this area here, unfortunately, we couldn't get that. And you can see that the market came down lower and lower and even reached this region to the downside and actually even held to the downside of this area. You can see that this was during the New York Stock Exchange open from around 4:30. But from there, you can see that the market has really struggled within this area here. So let's see if we can get some sort of a pullback coming in. There is a high probability we could be getting the market coming back in within this area here. If it does, then I think that's definitely a good area to try and see whether we could get some selling opportunities. So do watch out for that. But at least you can see that some buyers are starting to come in. If you look at how the sellers were coming down here and how quickly the buyers have undone, all these hours of the sellers attempting to break this region to the downside with just 2 candles, then that tells us that there are definitely some buyers who are definitely sitting within here. So let's see if they can get past this area to the upside. Because I think lots of traders, across the world are possibly looking for sales somewhere within here. And if the market breaks to the upside and they start getting stopped out, a good number of them are definitely going to start looking for buying opportunities. And when they do, by the time the market gets back in within here, they would have already forgotten about this. And that's when the sellers are now going to kick in once again. So let's wait and see. Hopefully, if we can get the market coming back in within here and during the US session, possibly we get the market there, I think this could possibly be a really good sell coming in on the Canadian dollar against the Swiss franc. So let's see what happens on that one. Of course, remember the region at the top, also a bit of a long shot, but at least let's be ready for that in case the market shows up within that region. So that's pretty much it in terms of the CHF pairs. So right now we're going to move on to the GBP pairs. We're going to do the exact same thing. Mix and match them up with everything on the sell side. So we'll start off with the Great British Pound against the Australian dollar. For this one, yesterday, the bus was to try and see whether we could get buys. So you can see the 3 regions that I had pointed out right there, and also an illustration of what to expect. Unfortunately, my anticipation was not really met. So you can see that I was expecting maybe price was going to come back in within here and possibly try and see whether we could blast off this region to the upside. But it seems that there was some sort of an SNR within this area here. And you can see that there was a big fight that was going on during the London session. And then just before the US session, the big boys showed up. The sellers couldn't do anything. When the market broke to the upside, unfortunately, we couldn't get a proper retest, coming back in within this area here. So let's see what happens on this one today. So these are the 3 areas that we'll be trying to see whether we can end up getting some buying opportunities, but also areas where we can manage our trades. In terms of looking for the buys now, that's a horrible idea. Don't do that to yourself. Be a bit kind to yourself. So wait and see if you can get the market breaking above this region to the upside. At least if we get a breach to the upside of this area and a nice strong breach, because if the market just breaks and just sits above this region here, then there's bound to be a problem. What you could find is that it could be a trap, and definitely lots of guys are already looking for the buying opportunities, as the market is going up. But at least if we do end up getting a nice strong breach to the upside and a nice slow pullback coming in, you could time the buys, but you just need to watch out for the highest part, where the market gets up until. But right now, since the market is holding there, you could find that during the London market open, this region might react, and you could find the market back within this region here, during the US session. So from around 4:30. So it's just a matter of being patient. Let's see how the market sets itself up. But hopefully we do get the market or price coming back in within this region here. At least if the Australian dollar can end up getting a bit of strength to actually end up fighting back, so that we can get that pullback, because the AUDs are showing a lot of weakness across the board. So hopefully they can get some strength, at least give us that much needed pullback. That would be good. So the next one, this is the Great British Pound against the New Zealand dollar. So for this one, yesterday we're trying to see whether we could have gotten some buying opportunities as well. So you can see the three regions that I had pointed out, which are going to be the same as today. So in the morning, price was here. I did point out that this wasn't a good area to look for the buying opportunities unless we broke to the upside. You can see that the market pulled back in, and you can see that it came down, just came shy of this area, but it seems that there was some sort of an SNR that price did need somewhere within this area here. And you can see that from around 4:30, there was some sort of a turnaround to the upside. You can see that the market went up quite fast, coming down, came down quite slow, but it seems that there's some sort of a range that's happening between this region here and somewhere within this area here. But still thinking maybe price might still come back in within this region. Reason being, if you look at how the buyers are reacting, coming up right now, most probably they will need a fresh pair of legs, which means that they will need to incite more sellers to come in, and there's a high probability that the market will need to come back in within this region, because when it broke to the upside, in as much as this retests have been coming back in within here, it's not really quite tapped within this area here. So you could find that maybe today the market might actually end up coming in, back within this region here, and hopefully when it does end up coming back in within there, that's when we'll end up possibly seeing the big buyers coming in, because you can see that within this area they're really struggling. In fact, if you look at the last move going up, which is this one here, and what had happened the previous time, you can see that there are signs of weakness this time, because it's always a game of relativity. You're comparing what the buyers or the sellers are doing now in comparison to what they did before. So you could find that maybe they might need to end up coming back in, maybe off this area here. That's when maybe the big boys are really going to come in, and we'll get that market really moving to the upside, maybe even breaching this region to the upside. So we'll just have to wait and see what happens. But also remember, my anticipation could be wrong. I'm not a prophet. So in case the market breaks above this region to the upside, then I guess we'll be watching out for a similar scenario, to what we were watching out for yesterday, in case it breaks to the upside. So just make sure that you do watch out for that. And of course, the region at the bottom, a bit of a long shot, but in case the market comes in within there, then also be ready for that as well. So the next one, this is the Great British Pound against the Japanese yen. So for this one, yesterday, we were trying to see whether we could have gotten some buying opportunities as well. So you can see the three regions right there. So in the morning, price was here. We're expecting maybe price to come down, maybe tap in within this region, come up, then maybe we could have gotten the buy. That didn't happen. You can see that there was this region, which was more or less our last line of defense. So the market came down, tapped within this region, came up. Unfortunately, we couldn't get the market maybe coming back in within this region, or maybe breaking to the upside and some proper pullback within this region. So it's like the bars showed up, then after that, they just disappeared, especially after this move to the upside. And you can see that the market just ended up coming back in all the way to within this area here. So let's see, hopefully, if we can get the market breaking above here, and we actually end up getting a hold, maybe we could possibly end up getting these buyers, who had showed up yesterday, possibly showing up once again. In case that happens, then at least we could try and attempt some buying opportunities, just to come back up within that region there. But also remember, in case the buyers do decide to, go for a much better price before they push the market to the upside, then we'll be trying to see whether we could possibly end up getting the market maybe reacting off this region. Maybe we could get the market coming down, looking for prices maybe lower than this. Also, guys who put their stop losses within that region, get a bit stop loss hunted, then after that maybe we could get the buying opportunities moving. So that's going to be the plan for today, but more or less same regions as what happened or what we're watching out for yesterday. So last but not least, for the GBPs, we do have the Great British Pound against the Canadian dollar. So for this one, yesterday, we were trying to see whether we could have gotten buys as well. So these are the three regions we're watching out for. So in the morning, when we're looking at the charts, price was somewhere within this area here. Unfortunately, we couldn't get the price coming back in all the way to within here. But you can see that the buyers started their journey going up. The sellers reacted there. The buyers pushed up again. And you can see that the market broke to the upside and technically held above this region to the upside. And you can see that the buyers did continue pushing the market up higher. So for this one, let's see if we can get some proper buying opportunities on this one today. So these are the three areas we will be watching out for today. Can't see that at least some pullback has been coming in. The sellers have slowed down within here. The only challenge we have is that the buyers have not yet showed up on this one. So we will be waiting to see if we can at least get a sign, of a big buyer showing up, maybe even challenging this seller there or somewhere within here, but at least somewhere within there, then at least we do see what the seller does end up doing within this region here. You could find that maybe there could be a good buy, but at least we do need to see the market holding above this region to the upside. So just make sure that you watch out for that. And of course, remember the region at the bottom. I mean, if the sellers do decide that they're still going to continue pushing the market down and there's no sign of any buyer showing up, then I guess there's a possibility we could find the market maybe struggling on the way down, and you could find that maybe price could be backing within that region, maybe at around 3, 4:30, within those times, and you could still get some good buying opportunity on that one. So that's pretty much it in terms of the Great British Pound pairs. So we're going to move on to the Euro pairs now. Do the exact same thing. So we'll start off with the Euro against the Australian dollar. So for this one yesterday, we're trying to see whether we could have gotten some buying opportunities. So you can see the three regions right there that I had pointed out. So in the morning, price was somewhere within here. So you can see the price came down, just bounced off this region. Fortunately, this one was a bit hard in terms of the read, in terms of the buy, but you can see that the market just came back in, tapped within this SNR, just shy of this area that I had pointed out. And you can see that the market went to the upside, came back in once again within this region here. And you can see that the market just continued to push up higher and higher. And you can see that moving into the Asian session, the market is still going up. So for this one, let's see if we can get some pullback coming in. Remember, like I pointed out, there is a lot of weakness that is quite evident on the AUD pairs. So in case we do get the market coming back in, this is at least a good sign. Hopefully we could get the market coming back in somewhere within this region here. I think there could be some good buying opportunities within this area here. So hopefully we could get the market coming back in within here. Also stop out all the late buyers, who are jumping in on the buys. You can see that the market has been going up. Definitely, lots of guys are chasing the buys within there. But alternatively, in case the market breaks above this region to the upside, then hopefully on the pullback, we can also end up getting the buys. But you also need to be careful with such kind of buys, especially when the market has been going up for a significant amount of time. It's very obvious, that everyone is definitely looking for the buys. So a lot of people need to be stopped out. My best bet would be somewhere within here. It doesn't mean that you can't look for the buys here. All I'm saying is just be a bit more careful in terms of how you actually end up going about it. You could easily end up getting sucked into a trap by the big boys. So just make sure that you really watch out for that. So the next one, this is the Euro against the New Zealand dollar. So for this one, yesterday, we're trying to see whether we could have gotten buys as well. The levels are the same as today. You can see the illustrations that I did have. So price was somewhere here, expecting price to come back in within here, maybe give us something to attempt the buys to come up. You can see that the market took off to the upside. And you can see that it almost tapped in within that region, or just came shy of that area, came to the downside. You can see that during the US session, there was an attempt to come down lower, but it seems that the buyers within here did actually manage to contain the sellers who are coming down. Price came in within here, held to the downside, broke to the upside. Then you can see that it came back in for some sort of a retest within here during the Asian session. And you can see that the buy has attempted to come up and challenge this region right here. So for this one, for today, the levels are more or less the same. So there's a high probability, since we're starting to form some sort of a range within this area here, definitely that tells you that the best buying opportunities are down within this area here. If you're looking for buys high up within this area here, then I think you're completely off location. So you just need to make sure that you're a bit more careful on this one. Either the market comes back in within here, or maybe we do break above this region to the upside. Let's say this region over here reacts. I mean, if you're a real sniper, you could possibly try and see whether you could get some buying opportunities here. But you just need to make sure that the risk to reward is also worth it in terms of coming up. At least if you do end up getting the sells or the buying opportunities much lower, then at least you do have way more range to the upside. and you're also playing within the structure, you know, it being a range, at least if you get the buys at the bottom of the range, then at least that gives you way more, you know, room to move to the upside, so that at least if you get into issues within here, you still could manage your trade. So watch out for that. The sellers are coming in hot, which is good. Hopefully we will get the market coming back in within this region here. Maybe even go lower than that. Look for prices down within this region here. But at least if we do get the buyers really showing up within this area here, I think, especially after some sort of a spike to the downside, I think we possibly could get the market maybe tapping into this region, or maybe even attempting to go beyond that region to the upside. So just make sure that you watch out for that. Also remember the region at the bottom. It's a bit of a long shot, but just make sure that you really are also ready for that in case the market shows up within that area. So the next one, this is the euro against the Japanese yen. So for this one yesterday, we're trying to see whether we could have gotten some buying opportunities. You can see the 3 areas that I had pointed out, and also an extra level right there that I had also pointed out in the morning. Remember, when we're looking at the charts, price was somewhere within here. And I pointed out you could attempt some buys off this area here, but you could end up getting squeezed within this area, because this was a major level. And you can see that the market fought within this area. Then the sellers came in quite aggressively. I had pointed out that hopefully could have gotten the market coming in within this region, attempting to come to the downside, because there were these buyers right here that were expecting to possibly continue pushing the market to the upside, because they're the ones who are in control. And you can see that the market came to the downside, came back in, held within here, and moved to the upside. So exactly what we had anticipated on this one. But unfortunately, I missed out on this one, I think, by a couple of pips within here before the market went to the upside. But it's okay. So today is another day. We'll see what opportunities we can end up getting. So for this one, the levels are the same. The price hasn't really moved far and beyond. You can see that this level to some extent is still playing a part, because you can see that the market went to the upside, came back in, retested off this area here, but it seems to be fighting within this region. But hopefully we can get the market coming back in within this area here, especially if that region does end up reacting and the market resets itself. Hopefully, if the market starts to range within here, then the best buying opportunities are definitely here. So that's where I'll be trying to see whether I can fish out, you know, some buying opportunities. And at least so that when the market comes in within here, if let's say the buyers come in with low momentum and they can't actually break this region to the upside and we get a hold within here, at that point in time, at least managing your trade is not such a bad idea. But hopefully we get the market blasting to the upside and we get the hold to the upside of this area. I think at that point in time we're safe. Most probably we'll be coming back up to within this region at the top. So just make sure that you watch out for that. Also remember the region at the bottom. That's going to be the last area where we will be trying to see whether we can get those aggressive buying opportunities. So last but not least, for the euro pairs, we do have the euro against the Canadian dollar. So for this one yesterday, we're trying to see whether we could have gotten buys. So you can see the 3 areas that I had pointed out, and also an illustration of what to expect. Unfortunately, we couldn't get the market coming back in within here. There was some sort of a scenario here that I guess was good enough for the buyers. The market pushed to the upside. Unfortunately, we couldn't get the retest coming in within here to actually time buying opportunity. But you can see that the buyers showed up during the London session and during the US session. It's like they just completely disappeared. And of course, looking into the Asian session as well, you can see that the market is just fooling around within that region there. So let's wait and see. Hopefully, we can either get the market breaking to the upside of this region. Don't really end up looking for the buys within here, because you're just signing up for this nonsense. You could easily end up getting carried within here for a very long period of time. So it's either the buyers show up and they reach this region to the upside. I think if you get the buys above this area here and somewhere within this region here, then at least those buying opportunities are much better. Alternatively, if the sellers do decide to push the market down lower, there are quite a number of levels here that you could find the market coming back until. But hopefully, if we can get the market coming back in, you know, within this region here, maybe incite more sellers to come in, that would be good. Maybe that's what the buyers need to also end up breaking this tie that's somewhere within here. So as the market starts to come down, more and more people definitely gonna get stopped out, because you can see that there's some sort of an SNR that's formed within here. And what many people are focusing on is this move going up. So as they're hitting their buys here, there's a high probability as the market comes down, as they get stopped out, they start shifting biases, and that's exactly what we want. So hopefully you could find the market back within here, maybe at 3,430, before the market does actually end up making a move to the upside. So watch out for that. Also remember the region at the bottom. That's going to be the last area where we will be trying to see whether we can get our aggressive buying opportunities. So that's pretty much it in terms of the euro pairs. So we're going to move on to the USD pairs now, which are going to be the last set of currency pairs. And we're going to mix and match them up with everything on the sell side. So we'll start off with the Australian dollar against the US dollar. So for this one, yesterday, we're trying to see whether we could have gotten some sells. So you can see the three regions right there that I had pointed out. So also an illustration, what we were to expect. In the morning, price was somewhere within this region. So we're expecting price to maybe come back in within here, attempt to go to the upside, come back in and hold, and maybe from that point on, maybe look for a selling opportunity. So the market came up within this area here. It was just technically holding above this region here. I was waiting to see whether I could have gotten a sign of a big seller coming in. And if you look at this region right here, you can see that there was this sign of a big seller coming in. And when the market started to hold within here, of course, reading that on a smaller time frame, because when it comes to entries, you really need to be good in terms of reading the precision. So when the market came back in within here after this hold, I looked for that sell there, came down with it. So this one gave a 1:3.68, but of course, I'm still hanging on to the trade coming down. But of course, I did end up doing some sort of money management within this region at the bottom right here. So I took this screenshot just before close the some of the trade, down within this area here. Stop losses definitely ended up coming in much lower, but based on the correlation, we're expecting maybe to see the market continue moving down lower. And you can see that during the Asian session, the market has come in much, much lower. So let's see what happens. So for this one, there's a possibility we could be getting the market maybe tapping back in within this region here. But of course, if we do end up starting to trend to the downside, then there's also a possibility maybe this region right here could also be an area that you could also end up watching out for. So let's see what happens. But in terms of looking for the sells now, don't really end up chasing, because if you do, there's a high probability you will end up paying or regretting that. So just make sure that you wait for the pullback. Let's see if we can get the pullback coming in within here. Also considering the fact that the Australian dollar pairs, they're showing weakness, like I pointed out. So you might find that maybe the pullback might not really come in within this region. So in case we do end up seeing something that does end up telling us that the buyers have run out of steam, within this region here, possibly you could end up looking for a sell within there. If we don't get that and the market breaks above this region and holds above it, then just wait and see if you could get something like this, maybe somewhere within here, where the market attempts to break the upside, comes in, and maybe holds, and you could find another selling opportunity coming in on this one. So let's see what happens on this one. But I'm really hoping maybe it doesn't come in within here, because after I did manage the trade, price came down, my stop loss is somewhere within this region here. So I've given the market a bit of room just to see what happens. But of course, if I do see something, then I'll definitely be jumping in on another trade somewhere within here to see whether we could end up going much lower. So watch out for that. Also remember the region at the top. I mean, if the market pulls back in all the way till within there, then also make sure that you're also ready for that. So the next one, this is the New Zealand dollar against the US dollar. So for this one yesterday, we're trying to see whether we could have also gotten some selling opportunities as well. And you can see the three areas of the three regions that I have pointed out, which are almost similar to what we have today. So price was here. We're expecting price to come in here for a sell. Unfortunately, there was no sign of a seller. Price came in a bit higher, all the way till within this region here. You can see that this was at around 430 or thereabout, some sort of a turnaround that did happen within this region. And after that, you can see that the sellers did start to push the market to the downside. So for this one for today, let's see if we can get the market pulling back in. It seems like we do have some sort of a pullback, something almost similar to the Australian dollar against the US dollar. So it could possibly be something to do with the USDs. But at least if we do get something like this within here, when we get the buyers coming in, maybe them slowing down, could be some areas that they're looking for within these regions here. Once they get that and get the market holding to the downside here, just make sure that you try to see whether you could get that sell to come down. So this one could be a good one. Also watch out for the region at the top. We've adjusted this one slightly higher up. Reason being, just to incorporate what we call true SNR. Down within this region wasn't a bad area, but now based on the story of what happened within this area, this could have been a mini probe, the market holding within this area. You could easily end up targeting down here, but the market could easily end up coming in within this region and turn to the upside. And I know it can be quite painful, especially when you're in profits, your take profit has been set maybe just a bit too far than where it should be. It's already going green, then the market just turns off a couple of pips before that. So just to make sure that we don't get into such kind of a situation, that's the reason why we've adjusted that slightly up. So the next one, this is the US dollar against the Japanese yen. So for this one, yesterday the bat was to try and see whether we could have gotten some buying opportunities. So you can see the three areas right here that I had pointed out. So in the morning, price was somewhere within this region here. And I had pointed out that don't really end up looking for the buys here. You end up getting into some sort of a squeeze and a fight. And you can see that the market just came in, bounced off that area, came down. The buyers attempted to go up higher, but the market just couldn't lift off this region. Came to the downside, but you can see that when it came to the downside, it pulled back to the upside of this region right here. Definitely after going a bit lower, stopping out, so many guys who are definitely looking for buys there, and also just going slightly lower than this, in case, just to incite also more sellers to come in. The market came to the upside, and you can see that there was some sort of a quick hold within here before attempting to come to the upside. But this region right here still seems to be posing some sort of a challenge, for the buyers. So let's see what happens, but the story is more or less the same. So there's no change in terms of what we're watching out for. The market hasn't really gone far and beyond, the areas that we're watching out for yesterday. So let's see what happens. This is some sort of a retest that the market has come back in within here. You can see some sign of some buyers attempting to show up within here. But hopefully we can get maybe the market coming back in within or somewhere as close as possible within this area. I think that could be a good buy. So, the closer you get it within here, the better. So that by the time the market comes in within this region, if you do end up getting some sort of issues there, then at least you can actually end up coming out of your trade, because this is definitely going to be your first problem area. So just make sure that you watch out for that. But at least if we blast through to the upside and actually hold to the upside of this area, I think at that point in time, you're safe and out of the woods. So let's see what happens on this one. But so far, this is starting to look good. So I'll definitely keep an eye out for this one to see what happens, maybe somewhere within there, but also watch out for the region at the bottom. In case the market comes in within there, then you can also end up watching out for buying opportunities, of course, dependent on what happens when the price comes in within there. So last but not least, for the currency pairs, we do have the US dollar against the Canadian dollar. So for this one, yesterday, the bus was to try and see whether we could have gotten some buying opportunities. And you can see the three areas that I had pointed out, and also an illustration of what to expect. But this one was pretty much dead. You can see that the market was just pulling around within this region here. Unfortunately, we couldn't get the pullback or the market breaking to the upside of this area. So for this one, the levels are more or less the same. Hopefully, we'll end up getting the market moving. You can already see that we do have an alert set down within this area here, because we're still expecting maybe price could come back in within that region there. After the market went to the upside on Friday, we didn't get a retest, and maybe that's what the market needs before it actually ends up moving to the upside. So we will be waiting to see what happens here. But of course, if the market breaks above this region, just like what we had illustrated yesterday, because I think the price is more or less within the same area where it was yesterday at a time like this. These are still the same two scenarios that we'll be watching out for. So hopefully we can end up taking note of that. But of course, remember the red SNR at the bottom as well. That's going to be the last area where we will be trying to see whether we can end up getting some aggressive buying opportunities. So that's pretty much it in terms of all the currency pairs. So hopefully you've taken note of everything we've discussed. And of course, we can end up moving on to the indices and the commodities. So we'll start off with the NAS 100. So for this one, yesterday the bus was to try and see whether we could have gotten some buying opportunities. And remember, we're always fully technical on these ones, the indices and the commodities. So for as long as we're holding above here, the bus was to try and see whether we could have gotten some buys. Price was somewhere within here. It was either the price to break above here for us to continue looking for those conservative buying opportunities, or maybe get some sort of a pullback coming in somewhere within this region here. And you can see that during the US session, the market was actually holding, just below this area of resistance. So it's not surprising to see that the sellers did actually end up reacting off this area to the downside. But unfortunately, we just couldn't get any buyers really showing up within this region. So the sellers came down, but at least they've started to slow down within this area. And you can see some sort of a sign of maybe some buyers now really starting to come in back into the game. Maybe the market did actually end up needing to come back in, somewhere within this sort of a scenario within there. So let's see what happens if we can possibly end up getting the market coming in within here. Let's see how these sellers do actually end up reacting. If we can actually end up getting a hold within this area here, and the buyers really end up, containing, the sellers within here, because right now we've just come back in within this region. So you could possibly end up finding, some buying opportunity happening off that region there, at least coming into the upside. So you could watch out for that. But of course, if the sellers do end up reacting and we get the market coming back to the downside of this area and we do end up getting a hold, there's a high probability you could get the market coming back in within this region here. And you could find that maybe the buys could technically work off that region at the bottom there. So let's wait and see what happens. But this is now starting to look quite enticing. So for the guys who normally trade the NAS 100 a lot, Dan Bickett and crew, just make sure that you really watch out for that. Let's see if we can get a good buy on that one. So the next one, this is the US 30. So for this one yesterday, the bus was to try and see whether we could have gotten some sells. So in the morning, price was here. I had pointed out that there was this region here, but if you did end up looking for the sells here, you did have to stand against this level here, or the more or less this level was standing against you. And you can see that the market did actually end up fooling around within this region here. So if you got the sells here, you can clearly see what I was talking about. You end up signing up for trouble within this area. Unfortunately, the market couldn't hold beneath here. Had it held beneath here after it broke to the downside, I think at that point in time, this market would have come down. But you can definitely see this level was definitely posing a challenge. And when the market at least broke to the upside, pulled back in within here, you can see that it has attempted to also go up somewhere within this region right here. But every time the sellers do attempt to come in lower, this level is still posing some sort of a challenge. So for this one, for today, the levels are the same. So we do have this region here that we're watching out for. Let's see what happens. There's not been some sort of an aggression by the sellers just yet. In as much as they did show up with this move here, the buyers slowed down, but after that, you can see that they completely disappeared. It's like they're not there. So for this one, there's a high probability we will have to get the market resetting, which means that maybe the buyers or these buyers who had stepped up within this region here are not yet quite done. They're still possibly giving these sellers issues, and that's why we're in some sort of a situation like we are right here. So maybe for them to completely be done, they might need to attempt to go higher than this level here. But at least if we do end up getting the market coming back into the downside and actually hold to the downside, maybe at that point in time, we could find these sellers maybe stepping back into the market. And we could have a replica, what happened on Friday, where the sellers did actually push the market to the downside. So let's see if we could end up getting that, but you'll definitely need to also watch out for this region. I mean, the last few hours, you can see that the market has actually been holding within this region here. So if you can't get the market breaking beneath here, you might as well end up scratching your trade, because you could easily end up getting taken back to square one if you don't. So watch out for that. Also watch out for the times. These indices and commodities normally have a high tendency of moving a lot, during the US session. So also watch out and see what happens. But also remember, like for the US 30, the market breaks above the red and SNR and holds above it. Then unfortunately, at that point in time, the sells are off. We'll have to start timing and trying to see whether we can get some buys. So the next one, this is silver. So for silver, yesterday, the bars was trying to see whether we could get sells. Same situation today. So these are the three areas that we're watching out for, which are going to be identical. Yesterday, we're expecting price to come in somewhere as close as possible there to give us a sell. You can see that the market came down, attempted to break to the downside, couldn't hold or struggled to hold. But unfortunately, you can't see that the sellers disappeared. But there's some sort of buyers within this region here. The market came up quite aggressive, and you can see that within this area, there was some sort of a slowdown, because you can't see that the buyers went up, sellers came down. The market held within there, but when the sellers showed up, unfortunately, they couldn't come in all the way till within this region here. So I guess these buyers were a bit stubborn yesterday. So let's see what happens. You can see that the market broke to the upside during the Asian session. It's pulled back in within here. I guess if it continues to hold above this region to the upside, you could find that during the London session, the market could technically be going up higher. Maybe looking for that price there, maybe you could get the sales happening off there. I mean, you could try and see whether you could get some sales there, targeting all the way down here, but just need to make sure that you manage your trade within there. But of course, if the sellers do end up showing up, then at least we could try and see whether we could get something like that, and we could look for some selling opportunities within this region. So just make sure that you do watch out for that. But like I pointed out, the commodities and the indices normally have a tendency of moving during the US session. So last but not least, we do have gold. Like Mitch loves to call it the fan favorite, but I think this one is the one that has broken the most number of hearts and killed the most number of Forex careers. So for gold, yesterday, we're trying to see whether we could have gotten some buying opportunities. So you can see the three areas right there that I had pointed out, which are more or less similar to what we do have today. So in the morning, price was here. I had pointed out that don't look for buying opportunities within this region here. There was some sort of an SNR that was holding within this area, and we were not too sure whether it was going to react, but you can see that the market did react. We're expecting maybe to get some sort of a probe within here before we look for the buys. You can see that the market broke to the downside, came back in, and you can see that at 4:30, that's when the market actually started to move to the upside. So this one gave a really good buy. Fortunately, I also missed out on this one by a couple of pips, but it's okay. So we will be trying to see whether we can get buying opportunities on this one, but don't chase the buys now because it's also quite obvious in terms of where the price is right now. So the reason why we have the levels as the same, in as much as the price has broken to the upside, is because in the morning we're expecting to first see what was going to happen, especially when the market came back in within this region here. But it technically does seem like it's time to hold. But right now, looking for the buys within here is going to be risky. You're better off waiting. At least if the market starts to form some sort of a range within here, then definitely you know that the best buying opportunities are definitely somewhere within here. And at least for gold, these are quite a number of pips. It may seem like it's quite small, but I think all the way even coming up to within there, we're talking about 82.5, or let's just round it off, 83 pips, which is quite significant. So that means at least if you get the market down within here, and at least you end up even getting a stop loss of like 20 pips going up, that's still a 1:4, which is quite decent. So let's see what happens. Hopefully we can get the market pulling back in within this region, but also there's a probability you could find the market coming in maybe a bit lower, especially considering the fact that I think we are possibly trying to see and challenge that high. The high is somewhere within here. So looking for the buys when the market is so high up within this region is also not really the best. I would really hope that we could possibly end up getting the market maybe even coming back in, somewhere within this region right here. At least I think some good buying opportunities could also be hiding within here. But of course, if we do breach above this region to the upside, then you could look for, some extremely conservative buying opportunities. But you also need to be very careful on how you end up going about it, because within this area, you can see that the sellers did react quite aggressively. You're not quite sure whether the market might end up spiking up slightly before the sellers do end up showing up again. So just make sure that you're really careful on that one, but hopefully we do get a proper pullback that does end up coming in on it. So even for this buy, just be extra careful. High buys are not really the best, but it doesn't mean that you can't take them. You just need to be a bit and extra careful on how you end up going about it. So I guess that's pretty much it in terms of all the currency pairs and everything we're looking at. So I think we can end up looking at the Q&A section real quick. So I see Alan Ronald there, as always, saying, hi, John, thanks a lot. Karibu sana, Alan, always happy to see you here. I see Alvin Nyaga, good to see you there, saying 75 pips up on AUDUSD. Show us your ways, master. Good trade though. Karibu sana, Alvin. I'm sure we've interacted before, especially when you used to do the intermediate. So I think we have shown you our ways. But of course, if you do need to learn more in terms of how to go about it on the charts, feel free to reach out to us. I mean, us guys are more or less like an open book. We come here. We're trying to share as much information as possible. Even coming in for these sessions, we're trying to really point guys in the right direction. Really give you that mentorship and the inspiration that you need, and also to show you that it's possible. So feel free to reach out to us. Our ways are not hidden. We're not some sort of a secret society. That's the reason why we're doing this out in the open. So feel free to reach out to us. We'll definitely show you our ways. So you see George Chege there. Good to see you as well. And also shout out to you for your screenshot. So you're saying, good morning, John and the team. I always appreciate what you do for us, guys. What would you advise? It's my view that switching sometimes to line chart when trading can help to view the price movement in a more clear view. Yeah, you can end up doing that as well. You know, of course, the candlesticks, what they do is they give you more detail in terms of the open and the close. But of course, if you also end up using the line, it's also not very bad. You know, sometimes we use it from time to time, especially when you're trying to plot the SNRs, you know, just also to end up seeing, you know, the proper areas where you can definitely see where the market has reacted off from. Because sometimes looking at the green and the red candlesticks, you know, or what we call the Christmas lights, sometimes it does actually end up changing your bias because you're now starting to focus on the greens and the reds coming in. But when you end up looking at the line chart, like you're pointing out, at least it takes out that bias and you're more focused on regions where the market has actually reacted off from, and you're more possibly keen in terms of price movements. So I mean, if you end up using that as well, that's okay. So that realization is not wrong. It's also something that we've also realized. So that's really good and interesting, George Chege, to hear that from you. So I guess that's pretty much it from me and from us. I want to thank everyone so much for making the time to be here with us. We don't take your time for granted, and we always try and give you as much value as possible. So feel free to reach out to us. Also remember, it's not only a matter of just reaching out to us for help. If you have any criticism, whether positive or negative, you know, also feel free to reach out to us, our contact details. If you think there's something we're not doing right, if there's something you think we need to do more, then also make sure that you also give us that feedback. We do value your feedback. So I guess we'll see you guys tomorrow. And as always, may the peace be with you. God bless, and bye for now.